Group 5, and we are here to get Jim Westwood re-elected. Do you know why is he running for this office for the third time? You have the answer, because you have seen how he is fighting for the best interests of our community. You have seen how much he cares about your children and his children that are part of this community. And more importantly, you have given him your trust. And every day he's working harder and harder to get your trust and honor the trust that you have given him. That's why we believe, where is it? Okay. Jim Westwood, our state representative for 2014. Okay. Now, can you go? So how are we going to get him elected, re-elected? We have answered 3 main questions. The first one, how many votes do we need? Or how many votes do I need? And then, who are those people? Just to have a fresh look over the community that has been electing him for all those years. And then finally, how are we going to reach to them? And within this big chunk of the presentation, we're going to present the communication, the finance, well, the communication, the ground game, how are we going to reach the people, and then our finances and our fundraising.
So for our vote goals, our main tactic is just make sure that those that are already ours stay ours. Our vote deficit actually for us ended up 0. We took some of the worst Republican races and averaged them together to find our vote deficit. We're expecting comfortable voters enough to cushion us with 4%, so we're actually expecting more than we need for a comfortable margin of victory. That being said, we're still going to go for the swing voters and the Get Out the Vote group. We really want to hit it home. We want to juice it and make sure that it's a good, clean win, and that we show the voters of District 107 that we are the right candidate. So what we did first, we looked at our demographics. We realized that we have a relatively educated demographic, so we are comfortable using things like email and town halls and social media. We are also confident that we are mostly Republicans. We're kind of leaning on that trend to continue in the past. And although we have about 1/3 of our demographic are minorities, so we have efforts to reach them as well. So our communication strategy basically is split up like this. We have radio ads, phone banking, mail, and the web. So our radio ads, our strategy for communication is basically to stay present and on their minds all the time. But we're going to focus most of our efforts on the last 3 weeks of the campaign, obviously. So here is our tactic for radio. Our tactic, the reason why we ordered the issues in this order was we're trying to establish likability first. So we're going with the bio and the family and kind of highlight his military service. And then once it gets closer to the election, after we have the trust and the support, likability, we're going to move towards the issues. So our small business and our energy and spending, which were the 2 highest polling issues for our group. And obviously, before the election, we're going to do our Get Out the Vote ads.
Hello! My name is Carly Allen, and we are CKPR.
All right. So we just wanted to give you guys some samples of what we're going to be sending out to our voters, things that they're going to be seeing. So this is Westwood Sr. We want our voters to remember that he is a 3rd-generation military man.
Third counter.
And we also just want to make sure that our city remembers that our candidate is not going to need on-the-job training. Day 1, he knows where everything is. He's already been doing it. He's not going to need to get caught up at all. We also want them to remember that he has a daughter named Emily. His daughter goes to the same public schools that everyone else's kids do. And she has a dream of having her own bakery. So we want to make sure that we can protect small businesses for Emily to have her dream.
For Emily.
For Emily. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're really focusing on Emily.
Duty, honor, country, Westwood. What do you see here? You see a patriotic man holding his children. You see him inspired by his father and grandfathers. Count them 2. That's why he served his country. Continuing to serve and to lead. Westwood works.
Yeah. And then Barbara here. doesn't tug at your heartstrings, I simply don't know what does. Once again, reminding everyone that he is a family man.
Now, with small businesses, big impact. This is just talking about, you know, he believes in small businesses. He believes that they are what kind of stimulates the economy for him. He's all for small businesses. And it just shows, you know, he's fighting for fair and simple regulation climate. He wants to help those.
And just wanting to touch that he does want to be a leader in energy and expand the power that they can harness in their city.
Okay, for the ground game, actually, we know our people, but we have thought that it's important to talk to the minorities and get a little bit more efforts in there. So we're gonna do the door-to-door talking, some community events, so barbecues, town halls, etc. And then some school tours around the suburbs of Dallas too. And then he'll be like on social media and telephone conference answering online questions directly. And then for our finances, that was actually our first step. When we started this, we just said, where are we going to get the money and what are we going to do with this money? So we are listed here. I have the file there, but we can talk about that in the questions. But I have listed here the main sources. So basically, he'll have personal meetings with big donors that we actually went to the Texans for Public Justice and we got all the historical contributions of all those donors. Our best case scenario is getting those 335K, and then our worst case scenario is 264K. So we worked with the 264 to get all this plan here. And then, budget, percentage of that, 20% for operations, that includes staff, 10% for research, typical, so that, and then fundraising, we're going to spend 8% to get this money, and then 60% in the outreach, and we have 2% surplus in case. Thank you.
All right, I'll go first. I'm so confused about Emily. Let me go back to Mr. Westwood Sr. Is that a direct mail piece that you're showing us?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. One, that's a lot of text. And why would you do an entire section?
This one wasn't mailed. This was just an idea we had. This was going to be like some talking points and stuff. We were going to, for a mail piece, it was going to be much shorter. This was just, we kind of condensed it all into one.
But you'd still use Dad's picture?
Yeah. Who wants to hear about young Emily? I'm not quite sure how young it is, because apparently she's going to get a bakery at some point. I'm looking at this picture of this old dude, and then I'm reading this whole story about Emily, who goes to the same public schools as your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. How old is Emily? And then go to the next one.
Oh, this is Emily.
Okay, so is that Emily?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily's about to get a bakery?
No,
That's her dream.
Because
Oh,
what
her
happened is
dream
we,
is to get a bakery.
Her
Okay, then go to the next one.
we actually forgot
Is that
to.
Jim Westwood? And
Yeah.
which one of those is Emily?
He has sons too.
Right, but here's my thing. If you're going to build a message, I mean, candidates have done this where they pick they talk about one of their children and build a whole theme around it. You can't lose Emily halfway through the campaign. People will want to know what happened to Emily. I'm worried about Emily.
Well, also when we first started, we kind of, obviously we overlooked his age a little bit. We kind of wanted to have a grandfather figure, and so she was originally like his granddaughter, and his sons were grown.
And then
And
you
then we
read higher
actually
and
looked at the age
realized
and forgot. Yeah.
One last thing for me. Keep going forward to the minority outreach piece. Okay, look, you said you have a vote deficit of 0, right? You said that you're in good shape, you're going to win this thing, you're just going to hold on to your base. So keep going. You are going to spend a significant amount of money
One more. There we go.
Yes. You're going to do 28% Black and Hispanic door-to-door in the event. Are you at all worried about the idea that if you go after this many Hispanics and African Americans, you may end up turning out people who are going to vote for your opponent?
No, that's not what actually our plan. Maybe it's confusing, so we apologize for that. But the thing is that we are very tight, so we have to make sure that ours stay ours. And this is on the top of our efforts to keep, because he has been running for this. This is the 3rd time. So what we are assuming as a campaign team here, that we know how to get to the people. We're gonna do the same thing as the previous times. On top of that, we're gonna put more efforts on the minority groups.
Yeah, perhaps it's a little unclear, but the ground group is, we're targeting the minority with our ground game, but that's not the only group that we're hoping to reach with the ground game. I
We
guess
are-
is what we're trying to say.
We're recycling the
I'm
same
sorry,
thing.
let me be clear. You're gonna talk to black voters in your district? Are you talking to black voters at all?
Yes.
90% of black voters in your district vote Democratic. So every time you talk to a black voter, you're potentially talking to somebody who, by hearing you, is only gonna be more likely to come out and vote for your opponent. Because they're gonna remember that there's an election happening. You're hoping that they forget that there's an election happening, right? So
There
unless
are
you have a
Hispanic
message, I mean, if you have a specific message that you think is gonna peel off black voters from your candidate, your opponent, and bring them to you, great. But I didn't see any messaging or imagery in your campaign that appeals to black voters, or Hispanics for that matter.
I mean, that's a great comment. You know, we're not, our plan is not perfect. We're trying to improve it, and your feedback is actually what's going to help us improve that. But the thing is that,
Okay, go to the radio. Go to the radio slide. Man, you're gonna do 6 messages? You know how many times it takes a person to hear a radio ad? I mean, you're gonna essentially do 2 weeks for each one, so you're gonna wanna do 3 ads.
It's too many messages to the voter. They're hearing you one this week, next week, for 6 weeks, or different messages. They don't remember who you are. Remember 5 minutes a month?
so basically you're saying we should maybe not talk about all those issues like pick up two
You're
and...
gonna wanna do like a bio ad, then small business, and then, spending. And so you're going spending into the GOTV.
Kind of focus
The
around.
spending is your strongest message of all.
Yeah, so you want to introduce him, then you want to tell him what the kind of big issue is, then the big issue is going into early voting.
Alright guys, good one.
Yeah, I have one question.
CKPR, what is that?
Oh, that was just a little joke, because Luke kept calling us the PR team. So
Got
we were just pretending that we were the PR aspect of it.
Okay, so, 30 seconds of feedback. I think it's really important to be enthusiastic, which you both very much communicated, but you also want to take your audience seriously and respect them. So when you're delivering the message, it's best to err on the side of a little bit more restrained.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.